Mr. Derek St. Holmes was born on February 24, 1953, as an American musician, best known as the vocalist and rhythm guitar player for Ted Nugent's early solo career. He has also subsequently lent his talents to recordings by other artists, and by the dawn of the 21st century, finally launched his own solo career. Hailing from a small city not far from Detroit, Riverview, Michigan, St. Holmes became originally interested in music via his mother, who sang regularly in a church choir. Not long after, he picked up a guitar and began to sing himself, and was influenced by the usual Brit rock suspects of the 60s, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Who, etc., but also soul and blues artists like Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, and the all-mighty powerful B.B. King. By the early 70s, St. Holmes was fronting a local Michigan rock outfit called Scott, who opened up for several shows for Ted Nugent. Nugent's singer at the time left Motor City Madman high and dry, and several auditions were arranged with St. Holmes, all of which proved unfruitful. Just as St. Holmes was about to relocate to the West Coast to try his luck there, a final audition was arranged, and this time, St. Holmes and Nugent decided to unite. With a fine rhythm section of bassist Rob Grange and drummer Cliff Davies signed on as well, as the newly assembled Ted Nugent Band toured the U.S. for a few years, and in the process became one of the tightest and most ferocious hard rock outfits in the U.S. The quartet was signed to Epic shortly thereafter, resulting in Nugent's self-titled release in 1975. This album, along with continued non-stop touring, helped establish the group even further. But inter-band friction threatened to derail the group. Nugent wanted to be the sole leader and focus of the attention, while the other members wanted more of a democracy. Just prior to when recording sessions for a sophomore effort were scheduled to get underway, St. Holmes left the group and was replaced by then unknown Meatloaf for 1976's Free for All, although St. Holmes managed to appear on some of the recording. While the album was another success, Nugent quickly realized that St. Holmes was better suited for the group and was welcomed back into the band prior to the album's supporting tour. St. Holmes was then invited to join Michael Schenker's band in England, but his participation with the former Scorpions UFO guitarist only lasted for a pair of albums, Built to Destroy and Live at Hammersmith, as St. Holmes opted to return home back in the U.S. to be closer to his wife and then newborn baby. St. Holmes spent a few years in the mid-'80s putting together a band in Chicago before reuniting once more with Nugent. St. Holmes continued to tour and record off and on with the Nuge, including lending his vocals to Nugent's 1995 Back to Basics release, Spirit of the Wild. Soon after, St. Holmes formed Big People, which was comprised of former Cars-based bassist vocalist Ben Orr, who sadly passed away in October of 2000, may he rest in peace, Billy Joel drummer Liberty DeVito, plus guitarists Pat Travers and former 38 Special member Jeff Carlisi. 2000 saw the release of St. Holmes' first true solo release, The Fine, Then and Now.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Keys for Premier Guitar. I'm hanging out with Derek St. Holmes. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Very good.
Cool.
You are well known as a singer, but you're playing guitar again with
yeah.
Brad.
Yeah.
And so talk to us about your guitars. What one would you say is your number one on this
My
run?
number one is a Gibson. Of course it would be a Gibson Les Paul. Number one to anybody that knows anything. But this is my Greg Martin. Looks almost like it's real, like a real old one. But
I was going to say, is this the one that you said that you liked because it was old?
Yeah,
It looks old.
It looks old. It looks real. And Greg's a buddy of mine, and I had a chance. He was kind enough to let me play his. And this one feels a lot like his, so it kind of felt real to me. So I love it. But this is my mainstay. I use this one.
How long have you had this in your collection?
This one, I've had this for maybe a year.
Okay.
And kind of started with the whole resurgence of the Whitford St. Holmes project. We kind of started it again with this. And also, it started with this one, which is my Ronnie Montrose model, which Brad, at the end of the album, Brad came up to me and he goes, "Hey, you like this?" And I go, "God, I love that." He goes, "Well, I got 5 of them. Here, you keep this one." I said, "Okay."
That's a cool band name.
Oh, man, that's a good one. This one feels and acts real. This one actually is the better sounding of the two. But I have David Allen pickups in both of these, in almost everything that I have. David Allen makes a true historic 59 PAF, so I use his stuff. It works for me. I also use Tone Pro's bridges because they're tight and they lock.
Probably helps just overall with intonation.
No, just intonation, sustain, all of it. Tone Pros I use. I haven't had a chance to swap this one out yet, but I'm going to swap it out for Tone Pro's keys. So I'm just a nut about their stuff. It works, and it's a bit more of a fine-tuned ratio than the inexpensive Clousons, but another story.
And with the David Allens, do you feel that they, obviously their voice for the older pickups, do you feel it gives those guitars that look old and bass and older models more of a true older sound?
Yeah, it makes them sound like they're truly old. I mean, we A-beat them up against Brad's 59. Brad's got a real one, and it's just stellar. So we A-beat everything up against it, and it's right there. It's right there. I mean, for a guy like David Allen to make something that sounds exactly like something that was made in 1959, freaking unreal. So that's where I was sold. So this thing right here is a Nags. Joe Nags is an old buddy of mine from my days in Annapolis and my days hanging out with the Paul Reed Smith band. And Paul is my best friend. Love Paul. Joe and I got to be buddies. Joe Nags makes an incredible guitar. Steve Stevens is doing a wonderful job playing these things, and he makes them sound great, but he'd make anything sound great. Steve Stevens is freaking awesome.
And what's in the point of the set list, would you bust this out? Or is
This is going to be on one song. This is going to be open-tuned, and this will be on a song called Hot For You, and I'll bring it out then, and that'll be its showcase, and blah, 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 blah. But this thing, the cool thing about it is it's semi-hollow, and it's perfect because that's what I used on the album, and it sounds just like it, so be great. All right.
And last but not least.
Last but not least, I know it looks weird, kind of wild, but it's super light, and the tone almost banjo.
Yeah, almost like a resonator, yeah.
Yeah, resonator-like. But my buddy makes these, and they're called Klein guitars, and he's out of Dallas, he's out of Texas, so I'm taking it out. I told him I'd try it. So far it sounds great. And we're going to give this one a go. This kind of reminds me of the way Ron Wood took out those Zematis the first time, because everybody went, "What the heck is that?" Now try to find one.
Yeah.
You know, but and this has Seymour Duncan's in it. I think these are like Jeff Beck, and we're gonna find out. We'll find out about this one.
The true test will be on the
True
road.
test will be. I don't even know what kind of keys those are, but they look like they're fabulous, and they lock. And
They're black, so they gotta be cool.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to pedals.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm pretty simple. but I do like pedals, and I think they certainly add. So I'm a big fan of Boss pedals. I know there are zillions of pedals out there, but I'm a huge fan of the Boss Tuner, and I'm a huge fan of the Zen Drive. If you don't know what a Zen Drive is, a Zen Drive will make anything sound like a big Marshall. If you're smart, you find a Zen Drive. They're not easy to find. They're hard to find.
Yeah, Hermedia Audio.
Yeah,
Yep.
I call them all the time. It's like he left the planet. I can't find him. And also, what stands up to that is the new AC Booster Comp by Exotic Pedals. They sent me one, and I remember talking to them, and I said, man, if you think you can beat the Zen Drive, then you have it. Send it to me, because I'd love to try it. So they sent me one, and you see both of them there. You don't see just one. They both do a different job, but a great job. This one's got, when I need a little more high end in the Marshall thick sound, I click this one on instead of this one. But if I just need blanketed big, like AC/DC chords, something like that, Zen Drive, you know. So, just a pedal train mini, boom, 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 simple. If this blows up, we'll go get another one. I don't have anything that's favorite. I'm not a favorite guy. See these amps? Can we go to amps now?
Yes, sir.
Now, this thing right here, 3 monkeys. This one's called a sock monkey. It is 18 watts, probably the best sounding amp I've ever heard that's brand new. I've got plenty of Marshall 1974X's, and that's the end all be all for me right now. Those sound fabulous. This sounds every bit as good. And again, I'm a Marshall guy. I've used Marshall ever since I was, I don't know, 14. Thank God I was lucky enough my parents helped buy it for me. Because I didn't have the money, I was in a band. So I use a reissue 50. It's not a hand wired. I wish it was a hand wired, but I don't hear the difference. I guess guys hear the difference. Once I turn this thing up past 3, if you can hear the difference, your name must be, I don't know.
Eric Johnson.
That's
Jim
what
Marshall.
I was thinking of. Sorry, Eric. You're a bad boy. You're fabulous. But Eric, he can hear that stuff. I'm much more simple.
We're mere mortals.
Yeah, I'm just a mere mortal. But and I'm using reissue cabs with 25s in them, 2 of them, and I also have a hand-wired 100 that I'm not sure if I'm going to take out. I don't think we need that. I think between this 50 and the 18 watt, with a mic on this 18 cab, it is sweet. So I think we got it covered. And this adds, the power that I'm used to and the feel of that English big, thick sound, I mean, I grew up on a lot of that early, Cream. I saw Eric Clapton. I'm sitting in front of him watching with these big Marshalls, and I went, holy. So that's why I got that sound.
And to just clarify, do you run both of them at the same time, or is one on and the 3 monkeys as a backup, or? 3 monkeys
is I have a feeling right now it's looking like looks like a backup, but when we set up tomorrow and get ready to go, this one's going to be on, that's going to be on, be separate mics. I'll get that nice little crunch. I'll get this big crunch. Because once this cranks up, you're not going to hear that anymore. but it's the sound, and it goes out front, and it's what you guys hear, and it's going to be cool. I don't know how to make it much more simple other than that. Some guys make a big deal out of it. I mean, basically all this stuff right here means nothing without these, without that, and
do you
without
do anything
this.
special for your hands? Do you do manicure or anything?
I don't.
Hand lotion?
No. I thought about getting my nails done, but no, I don't. I'm just the worker bee, I mean, when I started with Nugent was no frills, man. It was out. Whatever we had, we used it. We made it happen, and I learned a lot of that from him. I mean, he's there were many situations when I first started with Ted back in '74. We'd go into some place and they didn't have all the, some of the gear we needed, or maybe our gear didn't make it. We had to play the show on whatever was there. So you learn real quick. It's not about all this. Not that it isn't.
Yeah.
But you got to have it. You got to have it here, and you got to have it here, or you're in trouble. So, but that's what makes this stuff sound so good. And I tell you what, I tell everybody all the time, take a picture of that. I got guys come up all the time. They're going, man, how do you get that sound? I go, well, just take a picture of it. That's all I know, And I have my settings marked with a black magic marker. And I, before we start, I make sure first thing I do is make sure that these are all where they're supposed to be. Then I can go out there and not even look down. I mean, I see plenty of guys tap dancing in front of their pedal board. And I don't know what that is. That's a whole nother deal. And I hardly ever touch that thing once we start. But now we can go to chords and get sort of fine-tuned, can't we?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, so yeah, on my board I'm using lava cables and using some monster cables. I kind of stay right there. I use, some people, what kind of straps do you use? I use soldier straps because they're pretty.
And they use reclaimed materials too.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, she made them just like they used to be when I used to first buy them, and they were called Ace straps. So, but I like the nostalgic value of these. It's very cool, and they work. But I kind of still go back to the skinny little strap, and these are really, some of these have the name Fender on them, but they're really levy straps, and they're always real nice to me. They give me any of these that I want, and he always goes, couldn't you pick a fancier, more expensive strap? And I go, oh no, it's Harvey. I said, Harvey, that's all I use. He goes, okay, all right. So, and I always like that whole Jimmy Page, Jimmy's got it down here and a little skinny strap holding it on. And used to, I thought it hurt my back, but turns out the Les Paul I used was 11 pounds. Who knew? This one's 7.5 or 8, big difference.
Yeah, it's a lot more manageable.
Picks, I use heavies, any kind of tortoiseshell heavy. We've been using Diodario. And strings, again, Diodario. Oh my gosh, we use the New York XLs. If you haven't tried them, you gotta try them. I normally use a 9 because I got wimpy little fingers. And I started using the New York XL 10s, and oh my gosh, I can push them everywhere and just go crazy. So that's kind of what we're doing there. So other than that, that's kind of the rig rundown. It's Gibson Les Pauls and Marshall amps. That's how you get that sound.